The CNN studio lights, Ivanka Trump's face, as she settled into the guest chair across from moderator Jake Tapper. This town hall format was supposed to be straightforward, answer questions about her new policy initiative, shake some hands, and leave. But when the producers informed her 10 minutes before airtime that Barack Obama would be joining remotely to provide commentary, everything changed. "We thought it would make for compelling television," the producer said through her earpiece. He agreed this morning. Ivanka's jaw tightened. Obama hadn't been on political television in months. Why now? Why tonight? The camera operator counted down. 5, 4, 3. "Good evening," Tapper began. "Tonight we have a special town hall discussing economic policy and the future of American manufacturing. Joining us in studio is Ivanka Trump, and via satellite from Washington, former President Barack Obama." Obama appeared on the large screen beside the stage. He nodded politely. Ivanka forced a smile. "Let's begin with the main topic," Tapper said. "Ivanka, you've proposed a new manufacturing initiative. Can you explain it?" She leaned forward, confident. "Absolutely. The American Manufacturing Revival Act focuses on bringing factory jobs back to rural communities through tax incentives for corporations that relocate production facilities stateside. We're talking about real jobs for real Americans who've been forgotten." Former President Obama, Tapper turned to the screen. "You attempted similar initiatives during your administration. Your thoughts?" Obama paused. That pause already felt loaded. "Well, Jake, I think the intentions sound good. But I'm curious about the specifics." Ivanka jumped in. "The specifics are clear. We incentivize companies with a 15% tax break for every 100 jobs they create on American soil. It's simple economics." "Simple economics," Obama repeated slowly. "Can I ask you something, Ivanka? In your proposal, which I read this morning, you mention no requirements for wage standards, no environmental protections, and no provisions preventing automation. Is that correct?" The studio audience stirred. Ivanka felt the first crack in her composure but recovered quickly. "We don't want to burden businesses with red tape," she said. "That's how you kill job creation before it starts." Obama's expression shifted. Not to anger but to something worse, disappointment mixed with precision. "So under your plan, a company could move a factory to Mississippi, pay workers $7.50 an hour, automate 80% of the positions within 2 years, and still receive full tax benefits." The audience murmured louder now. "That's a worst-case scenario," Ivanka countered, but her voice carried less certainty. "Is it prevented in your legislation?" Obama pressed. Ivanka glanced at her notes. "The market will regulate itself. Companies want good workers, so they'll pay competitive wages." Obama leaned closer to his camera. "The market will regulate itself. I've heard that before." Tapper sensed blood in the water. "Former President Obama, you seem skeptical." "I'm not skeptical of the goal," Obama said. "I'm skeptical of the method. We tried trickle-down approaches to manufacturing. They don't work. The data is clear." Ivanka straightened in her chair. "With all due respect, Mr. President, your administration saw manufacturing jobs decline. We're offering something different." "You're offering something older," Obama replied. "These aren't new ideas. They're recycled talking points from the 1980s dressed up in new packaging." The audience began to choose sides. Some applauded. Others shifted uncomfortably. "Let's look at one specific example," Obama continued. "In your proposal you cite the success of Operation Manufacturing Renaissance as a model. Can you tell me what happened to that program?" Ivanka froze. She knew the program's name was in her brief, but the details escaped her. "It created thousands of jobs in the Midwest," she said. "It created 1,200 jobs," Obama corrected gently. "Temporary jobs. The company received $47 million in incentives, then moved operations to Mexico 18 months later. The factory is now a parking lot. I know because I visited that town during my presidency." Sweat formed at Ivanka's hairline under the studio lights. "That was one case. You can't judge an entire approach by one failure." "You're right," Obama said. "So let's talk about the 17 other cases in the past decade where similar programs resulted in the same outcome. Should I list them?" Tapper interjected. "We actually have that data prepared. Would you like to see it, Ivanka?" She waved it off. "I'm familiar with various outcomes, but this plan has safeguards." "What safeguards?" Obama asked. "I read all 47 pages. I didn't see enforcement mechanisms. I didn't see clawback provisions. I didn't see worker protections. What I saw was a wish list that assumes corporate good faith. The audience was fully engaged now. Phones stayed in pockets, eyes fixed on the exchange. Ivanka tried a different angle. The difference is leadership. When you have people committed to making it work, leadership doesn't override economic reality. Obama interrupted, his voice still calm but firmer. You can't lead people into prosperity on hope alone. You need structure. You need accountability. You need to actually understand how manufacturing economics work in the 21st century. I understand perfectly well, Ivanka snapped, then immediately regretted the edge in her tone. Obama raised an eyebrow. Do you? Then explain to me how your 15% tax incentive compares to the labor cost differential between American and overseas workers. Run the numbers for me. Silence. Ivanka looked at her papers. The numbers weren't there. Or if they were, they weren't making sense under pressure. The exact calculations vary by industry, she said carefully. Give me one industry, Obama pressed. Pick any manufacturing sector and walk me through how the math works. I'll wait. Tapper leaned in. Ivanka, would you like to choose a specific industry to discuss? She picked the first thing that came to mind. Textiles. American textile manufacturing. Obama nodded. Okay. Textiles. The average textile worker in Vietnam makes approximately $300 per month. In the United States, minimum wage alone would put that at around $1,200, not counting benefits, insurance, or other costs. Your 15% tax break might save a company, let's say, $50,000 annually on a $1 million operation. But the labor cost differential on that same operation would be approximately $400,000 per year. How does your incentive bridge that gap? The math hung in the air like a guillotine. Ivanka started to respond, stopped, then started again. The quality of American workers justifies the higher cost. Does it justify a $400,000 per year difference? Obama asked. Because if I'm a CEO answerable to shareholders, I'm looking at that math and taking the Vietnam option every time. Unless, he paused deliberately, unless there are other factors, regulatory requirements, tariffs, trade agreements, things your proposal doesn't address. We're working on comprehensive trade reform, Ivanka said. Are you? Obama's tone sharpened. Because the last trade proposal from your team eliminated worker protections in favor of faster deal-making. How does that help American workers? Ivanka's face flushed. You're twisting things. I'm reading what's publicly available, Obama said. I'm not twisting anything. I'm asking how these pieces fit together. Because right now, this looks like a plan designed to sound good in a press release, but fall apart under scrutiny. The audience reaction was mixed, but growing louder. Some people stood and applauded Obama. Others booed. Tapper tried to regain control. Let's give Ivanka a chance to respond fully, he said. She gathered herself. Look, no plan is perfect from day one. That's why we have a legislative process. But the core principle is sound. What core principle? Obama interrupted. Tax breaks for corporations. We've tried that. It doesn't create sustainable jobs. It creates windfalls for shareholders and executives. If you want to create real manufacturing jobs, you need workforce development, infrastructure investment, and strategic trade policy, none of which I see in your proposal. Those things take years, Ivanka argued. Yes, they do, Obama agreed, which is why we should have started them yesterday. Instead, we keep returning to these quick-fix schemes that make for good television but terrible policy. The phrase good television landed like a punch. The implication was clear. This whole initiative was about optics, not outcomes. Ivanka's hands gripped the armrests. That's not fair. We're trying to help people. I don't doubt your intentions, Obama said, and his tone softened just slightly. But intentions aren't enough. Not when real people's livelihoods are at stake. Not when communities are depending on these promises. Tapper seized the moment. Let's take a question from the audience. Yes, you in the blue shirt. A middle-aged man stood up. I worked at Northfield Manufacturing for 23 years. 3 years ago, a company promised to bring jobs back with government incentives. They took the money, hired 100 people, then automated most of the work and closed the plant. How is this different? The question hung heavy. Every eye turned to Ivanka. That's exactly the kind of situation we're trying to prevent, she began. How? The man interrupted. How specifically? Because I read about your plan online. I didn't see anything that would have stopped what happened to me. Ivanka looked to Tapper for help, But he remained neutral. The enforcement mechanisms. There are no enforcement mechanisms, Obama said from the screen. That's the problem. This gentleman is asking a legitimate question, and the answer is that your plan would not have prevented what happened to him. In fact, it might have accelerated it. That's not true, Ivanka protested. Show me where I'm wrong, Obama challenged. Point to the section that includes clawback provisions if companies don't meet employment targets. Show me the wage requirements. Show me the automation limits. They're not there. The man in the blue shirt sat down, shaking his head. Others began calling out questions. The town hall was slipping from controlled to chaotic. Please. One at a time, Tapper called out. A woman stood. I'm a factory supervisor. My plant is profitable. But ownership is threatening to move to Mexico anyway because margins could be higher. Would your plan stop them? Ivanka opened her mouth. But Obama spoke first. No, it wouldn't. Because the incentives only apply to companies moving back, not companies staying put. So you could actually see a perverse outcome where companies move away, wait a year, then move back to collect the tax break. That's absurd, Ivanka said. Is it? Obama replied. Because we saw exactly that pattern with state-level incentives in North Carolina. Companies playing jurisdictions against each other, collecting incentives, then moving again. It's called incentive arbitrage, and your plan enables it. Ivanka stood up suddenly, then sat back down. The physical manifestation of her crumbling composure played out for millions watching at home. I think we need to take a commercial break, Tapper suggested. No, Ivanka said. I can address this. Obama waited silently on the screen. The patience in his expression was somehow more devastating than anger would have been. The core principle, Ivanka started again, her voice less steady now, is that American workers deserve opportunities. If we don't try something, then we're giving up. At least this is action. Action isn't the same as progress, Obama said. Sometimes action without strategy is just expensive failure. I learned that the hard way. I'm trying to save you from making the same mistakes. I don't need saving, Ivanka said, but her voice cracked slightly. Maybe not, Obama conceded. But the workers counting on these promises do. They need policies that work, not policies that sound good. Another audience member stood without waiting to be called. My town had 3 factories close in 5 years. Each time, someone promised they'd come back. They never did. Why should we believe this is different? Ivanka's eyes darted between the audience member and the screen, showing Obama. Because this time we have the political will. Political will is meaningless without sound policy. Obama said. I had political will. I had both houses of Congress for 2 years. But I still had to work within economic reality. You can't will factories into existence. You have to create conditions where they can succeed sustainably. And your approach didn't work either, Ivanka shot back, finding a brief surge of confidence. Manufacturing jobs declined under your watch. They did, Obama acknowledged without defensiveness. Because we were competing against global automation trends and decades of outsourcing that started long before I took office. But we also invested in training programs, community colleges, and infrastructure. We tried to prepare workers for the economy that exists, not the economy we wish existed. That's the difference. The calm admission caught Ivanka off guard. She'd expected defensiveness she could counter. Instead, Obama's willingness to acknowledge complexity made her simple talking points sound hollow. So you're saying we should just accept that manufacturing is gone? She asked. I'm saying you should be honest about what's possible. Obama replied. Some manufacturing will return, but it won't look like 1955. It'll be high-tech, automated, and require skilled workers. Your plan doesn't address skills training. It doesn't address education. It just throws tax breaks at a problem and hopes for the best. Tapper jumped in. We have data on job creation proposals from the past 20 years. The success rate for incentive-based programs without worker protections is 11%, meaning 89% failed to meet their goals. Does that concern you, Ivanka? Her face had gone pale under the makeup. Statistics can be manipulated. These are from the Congressional Budget Office, Tapper said. Nonpartisan analysis. Then we'll do better, Ivanka said weakly. How? Obama asked again. That's not a rhetorical question. I genuinely want to know how you plan to succeed where dozens of similar programs failed. What makes this different? 31 seconds of silence followed. 31 seconds of live television, where Ivanka Trump visibly struggled to formulate an answer. Her mouth opened twice. No words came out. She looked down at her notes, flipped through pages, then looked back up at Obama's face on the screen. "I believe in American workers," she finally said. "Belief isn't policy," Obama responded quietly. "Belief doesn't pay mortgages or feed families. We need more than belief. We need plans that account for reality." The silence that followed was deafening. Ivanka's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether to be uncomfortable or satisfied by what they were witnessing. "Perhaps we should move to closing statements," Tapper suggested, trying to give Ivanka an exit. She nodded numbly. "I'll go first," Obama said. "Look, I don't take pleasure in this. Manufacturing jobs are critical. The workers who've lost them deserve better, but they deserve real solutions, not political theater. If we're serious about bringing manufacturing back, we need comprehensive policy that addresses wages, training, infrastructure, trade, and automation. We need to be honest about costs and timelines. Quick fixes feel good, but they fail, and every time they fail, we lose more trust, more hope, and more communities. We can do better. We have to do better." The audience applauded. Not everyone, but enough to fill the studio. Tapper turned to Ivanka. "Your closing statement." She stared at the desk for a moment. "I came here tonight to talk about helping people. I still believe this plan can work with refinements, but clearly, there are concerns that need addressing. I'll take that feedback back to my team." It was the verbal equivalent of surrender. Not defiant, not confident, just defeated. "Thank you both for joining us," Tapper said. "This has been a CNN town hall." The cameras cut. Ivanka removed her microphone with shaking hands. Obama disappeared from the screen. The audience began filing out, buzzing with conversation. A staffer approached Ivanka. "The car is waiting." She walked out of the studio in a daze. Her phone was already exploding with messages. Twitter was on fire. The video clips were spreading across every platform. Obama destroys Ivanka's manufacturing plan. Ivanka Trump left speechless. 31 seconds of silence that ended a policy proposal. The numbers told the story. Within an hour, 12 million views. Within 3 hours, think pieces were published, analyzing every exchange. Conservative outlets tried to spin it as Obama being unfair. Liberal outlets celebrated it as a masterclass in dismantling flawed policy, but the truth was simpler and more devastating. She'd been unprepared. Not just unprepared for Obama specifically, but unprepared for serious scrutiny from anyone who understood the details. The proposal had been designed for press releases and friendly interviews. It had never been stress-tested against someone who actually knew how manufacturing economics worked. 3 days later, Ivanka sat in a conference room with her policy team. The manufacturing proposal had been quietly withdrawn for further development. The political damage was done. "We need to rebuild credibility," her communications director said. "We need a better plan," Ivanka replied. She'd spent 72 hours reviewing manufacturing policy papers, trade data, and economic analyses. The kind of homework she should have done before the town hall. Obama's critique hadn't just been devastating because he was articulate. It was devastating because he was right. Every point he'd made held up under examination. Every question he'd asked revealed gaps in the proposal. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She answered anyway. "This is Barack Obama." She sat up straight. "Mr. President, I wanted to call personally," he said. "That wasn't about embarrassing you. I hope you know that." "It felt pretty embarrassing," she said honestly. "I imagine it did, but here's the thing. You're young, and you're in a position to actually make a difference." That town hall, as rough as it was also a teaching moment, not just for you, but for everyone watching. Policy matters. Details matter. You can't fake your way through this stuff. "I'm realizing that," she said quietly. "Good," Obama replied. "Because the workers depending on these policies can't afford for us to keep getting it wrong. If you're serious about manufacturing, I can connect you with some people. Real experts, not political consultants. No cameras, no press, just learning. Your call." Ivanka paused, then said, "I'd appreciate that. I'll send some contacts. And Ivanka, next time you go on television to propose policy, make sure you can defend every single word, because someone like me will be watching, and we'll ask the hard questions. That's how good policy gets made." "Understood. Good luck," Obama said, and hung up. Ivanka set down the phone. Her team watched expectantly. "We're starting over," she announced. "Real research, real experts. and we're not announcing anything until we can answer every possible criticism. Understood? They nodded. The video of that town hall would follow her forever. 31 seconds of silence turned into a viral moment, a cautionary tale, and a permanent reminder that preparation and substance matter more than presentation and talking points. But in that conference room, surrounded by policy papers and economic data, Ivanka Trump began the work of turning embarrassment into education. Whether she'd succeed was still uncertain, but at least now she understood the stakes. The work of governance wasn't about winning television segments. It was about building policies that survived scrutiny and actually helped people. Obama had taught her that lesson brutally, but effectively. And somewhere in Washington, Barack Obama was already reviewing the next policy proposal that would cross his desk, preparing for the next time someone needed to be reminded that good intentions without good policy harm the very people they're meant to help. The cameras had captured Ivanka Trump crumbling under pressure. But what happened after the learning, the rebuilding, the commitment to do better? That part didn't make headlines. Maybe it should have. 6 weeks after the town hall, Ivanka received a package. Inside was a book, The Audacity of Hope, by Barack Obama, with a handwritten note tucked inside. Policy is personal. Every number represents a life. Every failure is someone's lost dream. Remember that, and you'll never propose something half-baked again. She opened the book to a marked page. Obama had highlighted a passage about his own failures in the Senate, about proposing legislation he thought sounded good but hadn't properly researched. A senior senator had torn it apart in committee. He'd felt humiliated, but he'd learned. The parallel was obvious. Ivanka's new manufacturing proposal sat on her desk. 47 pages this time, not 47. It included wage floors, automation transparency requirements, clawback provisions, and 5-year enforcement timelines. 3 economists had reviewed it. 2 former factory workers had given input. A union representative had suggested modifications she'd actually incorporated. It wasn't perfect, but it was serious. Her assistant knocked. "You have that interview with PBS in an hour. They'll definitely ask about the Obama incident." "Let them," Ivanka said. "I'm ready this time." And she was. Because the real crumbling hadn't been those 31 seconds of silence on television. The real crumbling had been the collapse of her assumption that confidence could substitute for competence, that presence could replace preparation. Obama had dismantled more than a policy proposal that night. He'd dismantled her entire approach to political work. And paradoxically, that destruction had been necessary. You couldn't build something solid on a faulty foundation. The video still circulated online. People still mocked those 31 seconds, but Ivanka had stopped watching it. She didn't need the reminder anymore. The work spoke for itself now.